Good morning. I wish to thank the organizers of this Portugal Summit for arranging this event in these very challenging times. The Secretary of State for Internationalization and the Secretary of State for Communications and the President of ANAC, my friend Luis Ribeiro. Additionally, I wish to express my appreciation to the Mayor of Ponte de Sor, Mr. Hugo Hilario, for the enthusiasm and commitment for organizing a so important aviation event in this nice city. ICAO appreciates very much initiatives like this that aim to promote aviation. As I begin these remarks today, we know that from January to August 2020, approximately 60% or 1 billion fewer passengers have flown than the same period of last year worldwide due to the global pandemic that is COVID-19. The ICAO economic impact analysis indicates that gross passenger operating revenues of airlines plummeted by approximately $241 billion from January to August 2020 compared to the 2019 level. Similarly, ICAO estimates that airports have lost $70 billion up to August. Air navigation service providers have lost $8 billion in the same period. 2020 has confronted us with grave threats to the very foundations of global air connectivity and scheduled commercial air service. These threats have shaken the air industry and tested its resilience. Airlines are at risk, and hundreds of thousands of jobs may be lost. The impact being seen sector-wide were quickly appreciated by ICAO Council in March, as countries everywhere began to close their own skies, as the severe economic repercussions of those responses began to be felt by both air operators and the society at large. Our rapid response at the Council level was to establish the Aviation Recovery Task Force, or CART, and it quickly produced the important report and the Takeoff Response Recovery Guidelines, which countries were calling for. Even today, the CART guidelines are continuing to help align national pandemic response and the recovery measures globally, and to provide an important basis for the international coordination and cooperation which must be realized. While these are still providing challenging in many areas of the world, there should be no misconception that the ultimate speed and effectiveness of our sector's recovery will be dependent upon the degree of international coordination we establish. It will be dependent on the measures we pursue being compatible with safety and security requirements, proportionate to the improvement of public health, flexible where possible to allow for a viable economic recovery, and safeguarded not to distort markets. The CART guidelines have been developed with these key sectorial priorities in mind, and at the end of October, we are expecting the new Phase 2 of these guidelines to be adopted through the Council. I wish to emphasize that some of its new provisions are being designated to help countries evaluate new medical testing options, and notably as a means to alleviate the current traveler quarantine requirements, which are so significantly impacting passenger enthusiasm and confidence globally. However, regardless of this pandemic, international aviation will have to continue to address the current challenges. Amongst them, innovation. This includes new transportation modes, for example, urban mobility, new technologies, for example, ARPAs or artificial intelligence, and new horizons as airspace transportation. In this regard, ICAO is tasked with becoming more proactive and responsive to innovation. This will require more effective engagement with the industry and new ways of ensuring technical assistance and cooperation among states. The Council is currently addressing this topic. It is considering the establishment of a forum with the industry that would provide strategic advice on innovation. Yet, another challenge we'll continue to face relates to safety. Is the risk posed to civil aviation over conflict zones. I wish to recall that at the start of 2020, international civil aviation faced yet another dawning of a civil aircraft over conflict zone, with the tragic loss of Ukrainian international flight PS-752 on 8 January in Iran. As you know, ICAO addressed the downing of flight MH17 in 2014 with certain initiatives aiming to enhance safety over conflict zones. This work led to amendments of ICAO annexes, and I'm pleased to report that most of them will enter into force in November 2020, so next month. Nevertheless, the downing of flight PS-752 highlighted that more must be done. For this reason, in March, the ICAO Council adopted the Safer Skies initiative, proposed by the Government of Canada. This new initiative has the objective to further enhance flight safety over conflict zones, and in a few months we will release the new measures. One word on aviation emissions. While unnaturally low at the moment, aviation emissions will also be on the rise again post-pandemic. And more states and operators will need to start making the commitments, the type of commitments to net zero aviation emissions, like the One World Alliance announced to our recent ICAO environment event. These commitments, in unison with the bold targets being announced by manufacturers toward the realization of a zero-emission commercial aircraft, and the work already underway by states through ICAO, give me tremendous hope and confidence that air transport sustainability will be assured in line with the expectation of both current and future generations. To conclude, all of us must recognize today that this is time not only for stronger leadership and commitment, but also deeper collaboration and solidarity. Fortunately, there is no other global community more capable than those capacities than our own aviation community. Thank you very much for your attention.